Good evening, everybody. So let's go ahead and get started with the meeting. So this is the Redevelopment Commission, February 21st, 2022. And the first item on the agenda is the roll call.
Deb Hutton here.
Deborah Meyerson here.
David Walter here.
And Cindy Canarney here. The next item on the agenda is reading of the minutes for February 7th, 2022, and executive summary for February 7th, 2022. Are there any corrections or comments from the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Deb Hutton. I move to accept the minutes of February 7th, 2022, and executive summary for the same day, February 7th, 2022.
This is Deborah Meyerson. I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor via roll call, please.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes. Moving on, examination of claims for February 4th, 2022 for $390,203.34. Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
This is David Walter. I'll make a motion. We accept the claims.
This is Deb Hutton. I'll second the motion.
We have a first and a second. All in favor via roll call, please.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes. Moving on to examination of payroll registers for February 11th, 2022 for $34,420.85. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Deborah. I'll make a motion to approve the payroll registers of February 11th.
Deb Hutton, I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor via roll call, please.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes. Passes unanimously. Next up, we've got report of officers and committees. Director's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, commissioners and guests. Just a couple things on the list for tonight. The first item of business will be choosing a representative to the Neighborhood Improvement Grant Council, which I'll speak to that, but wanted to let you know that the Community Development Block Grant allocation recommendations that you all approved are going to be on the City Council agenda for March 2nd. So thank you for your support on that process. We may be coming back to you as it relates, you're going to hear a hospital update, obviously, but this commission may be needing to work with staff, I should say, on a possible application to the revolving loan fund for the Indiana landmarks. We are working through those logistics, and so I want to make sure to mention in a public meeting that that is a prospective move that we might make for preservation costs regarding the core building. We're not sure. But if we do, want to make sure that we have mentioned that in a public forum so the public knows, but we will follow up with you on that accordingly. Related to that, just want to make sure also that commissioners and members of the public had seen the article in the Herald Times recently and online this morning, at least, about the hospital project, mostly specific to the core building and the efforts there on its possible redevelopment. So that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? If not, legal report, please.
I don't have any formal report. I would like to thank the commissioners for being able to come in and take their official oaths, and also filing of your conflict of interest forms. If anyone, I think everyone was able to do it, but if anybody needs to still do that, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any questions for Mr. Allen? If not, we'll move on to treasurer's report. Is there a treasurer's report this evening?
There is not. I'm sure I'll be answering questions later on in the agenda, so I'll let my time go down to that.
All right, thank you. Business development updates.
Hi, everyone. Alex Crowley, Economic and Sustainable Development. Just a quick update that if you recall, we talked a little bit about design services for the Economic Development Administration grant, which is a Trades District Technology Center. We are going back and forth to lock down an agreement on that, and we hope to have that in front of you perhaps at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Crowley?
This is Dave Walter.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions. Just a refresher, I believe you said the proposed developer of the old IU Press Showers administration building decided not to proceed with that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the kiln building is still going to move forward?
Yes. So our understanding on the Kilburn building is that they, as you know, with construction costs being what they are, it kind of threw them for a little bit of a loop on their design. They're evaluating that design right now. We've been in discussions with them actually as late as last week through our representative there. And so I think they're evaluating what they can move forward with. And then we'll have some better information once they've been able to establish that.
Okay, no further questions.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to new business. RDC representative for the Neighborhood Improvement Grant Council. Mr. Zodi, would you like to speak further to that?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. As the commission knows, on an annual basis, the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department issues neighborhood improvement awards, I should say, neighborhood improvement grants in the amount of approximately $30,000 total. There is a sort of a multidisciplinary group that forms that council that makes those decisions. Representatives from the neighborhood, from different city departments, and someone from this commission. President Canarney has served on that group the last 2 years, and we would like you to, we're asking you to appoint RDC commissioner to serve on that group again this year as we consider those applications from neighborhoods.
So would anyone like to volunteer for that? It's a really rewarding opportunity to work with the community, and I've certainly valued the opportunity over the last couple of years.
I would, but only if I can do it by Zoom, because I have a brand new newborn baby up here, and the mother went back in the hospital for a crisis. So my stepdaughter. So we're going to be back and forth to Chicago a lot. So I'm in Chicago right now in their house in the basement. So I could only do it under that for now, under that possibility, because I just can't. Don't know when we'll be in Bloomington, when we'll be in Chicago, and all that sort of stuff. I like the idea, but I'm just constrained right now with this two-part location. If it doesn't make
I'd
it.
be interested in, and certainly, that would be less of a consideration. That I don't have a conflict like that at this time. So it might be something that maybe Deb might do it next year if that's a better situation, and I'm happy to.
Yeah, there'll be no more babies up here.
Well,
Thank
Deborah, if you would be so inclined to volunteer for that this time, and maybe Deb, perhaps next year, look to do that, that would be super. So with that, do we need a motion, John, to nominate Deborah?
Yes, please.
This is David Walter. I'll nominate Deborah Myerson to be on our representative on the Neighborhood Improvement Grant Council.
And Deb Hutton, I will second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor, vote via roll call, please.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Myerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
And Cindy Canarney, yes. Thank you, Deborah, for volunteering to serve, and thank you, Deb, for volunteering as well. And
Yep.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll keep Commissioner Myerson updated on the schedule for the meetings, and I'll ask Angela Van Roy to get in touch with you, Commissioner, and get going on information that you need. Thanks a lot.
All right, moving on to the next item of business, Resolution 22-10, amended project review and approval form for development of IU Health Bloomington Legacy Hospital site. Who would like to speak in regards to this?
I'll kick us off. This is an update that we've been talking about bringing to you. We are at a good point to do so. Deb Kuntz with JS Held, who is the project manager that's assisting us with this, will be making a presentation, and then Alex and John and Larry and myself are available for questions and answers as well. So Deb, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. So I will go ahead and share screen. Oops. There we go. Okay, I'm going to assume everybody can see that. So I think it's been some time since there's been an update on the hospital site redevelopment. So we thought we would just go back just for a little bit and talk through the sort of just an overview of the redevelopment. I know there's probably different updates that happen throughout the year. There's obviously been a big focus on the Phase 1 East, which was always our plan, and a little bit on the core building, or focus on the core building as well, but the core building update will come in the future. We're not quite ready for that. And then ultimately just summarize the project review update that is in front of you. So I included in here just a recap of the master plan in terms of what the future development really looks like in terms of mid-rise, low-rise, single family dwellings, what that sort of future state really looks like, because I think that's important to always keep the future in mind, especially as you're building new infrastructure at the beginning. Sometimes it's kind of hard to swallow, making that kind of investment. But what this does is really get you to your goal and your emphasis to improve the affordable housing and give other housing opportunities, in particular, and other retail opportunities here in this redevelopment area. In the past, there have been, with the master plan, oh boy, sorry about that. Keep trying to switch it so it's easier to see for everybody. There have been really two focuses, two critical updates, two critical path items. One is the Phase 1 East, and that's what we're going to do today. That's what we're going to focus on, is the Phase 1 East update. You'll see that in the update as well. And then there is an update coming on the core development. We are still doing more due diligence on that. So you received a pretty detailed review of Phase 1 East in January, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but I did include this graphic to remind everybody what is happening, what's the scope of work in terms of including street work, including green space, wetland garden, parking as well. And that update again was provided to you in January. So we're not going to go into a lot of update. But when we talk about Phase 1 East and the infrastructure that's required to really engage the development and for a lot of the development to happen, this is really one of those first steps of it. Again, going back to what has been the Phase 1 East process, there was really the assessment of what's happening with the real estate. The infrastructure design has been going on. You did approve a contract for Shrewsbury to do the design work. You saw the fruits of that in January. Now, as we get closer and closer to a real estate transfer from IU Health, the bidding needs to happen, and then ultimately the actual construction of the demolition and infrastructure. Again, just as a reminder, this is the schedule that was shared with you in January, and you'll see that obviously this is pending the land acquisition or the real estate transfer from IU Health as well. But there are opportunities. We are ready to bid these things, and so that we're ready for that transfer to happen. So for knowing that the commission originally adopted a resolution, the project overall timeframe has not changed, with a target for at least some of this initial completion of work in the end of 23. But you can see that there is a request for additional consolidated TIF funds to be dedicated to this project. And I think it's important, again, I know that you have it in your handout and we can go into great detail, but as we look at the overall approximately 25 million there, where does this come, where does all of the money go to? And you see there's really two big kind of pockets of money. One is item 3, which is 6.5 million, which is the project agreement with IU Health. And number 7 is the phase 1 East, which includes the environmental, the demolition, the construction utilities. Previously, you had approved, like I said, the design contract and maybe some early real estate appraisal work and things like that, which are shown here. But there is an interest in order to move forward with the project, there does need to be money dedicated to that. Then what you'll see on your document is that there is an increase for project management and for a sustainability workshop that we think is important, particularly as we're setting the stage for what development is going to happen. And it's important that as an organization, the city can outline what their sustainability goals should be and will be, so that developers can help meet that goal and help you achieve your overall goal. As you see below, there is a reference to the core building redevelopment as a 2BD. And we anticipate we're going to have a update for you soon on that. But this is really, again, brings us to kind of things that have been focused on in the past, which is the master planning, the due diligence with the environmental, the appraisals, the consulting work. But where the 2 big increases are is in the consulting realm and in the phase 1 East here to get to these totals. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, or I know others are available as well.
I'm not seeing in the appendix to this resolution the percentage increase in these items. Has that been provided somewhere?
So Larry or Jeff, would you like to answer that, or would you like me to?
Deborah, I apologize. I don't know if I'm totally following your question about the percentage increase. Just in terms of the amount.
I just want to know what the
overall
original estimate was and compared to the current estimate. I'm just trying to compare.
Oh, yes. Some of these items we didn't have original estimates for. Actually, they were kind of too nebulous at the time to provide estimates on the original project review form. We had estimated the total cost for the phase 1 East project. It actually did include the project purchase agreement to TV $10 million, but these other costs were unknown kind of until we got up to speed on phase 1 East, received the consultant how much demolition would cost. I mean, we've kind of been doing this a little bit piecemeal. And so this is one of the first times we're putting it all together. That's why you're not seeing a very clean percentage increases. Some of these we just didn't know at the time. We were kind of, this is kind of a new type of project that we were dealing with. So we didn't want to take a stab in the dark. The one area where I'd say we have provided some tentative estimates was the First Street reconstruction. You'll see reflected on the project review form that we kind of stuck to what the overall cost, we stuck to the amount that was actually obligated, which is to the design phase. Again, because that reason is some of those costs seem a little tentative at this point. They're a little too nebulous for us to fully commit to. We gave you those estimates when we haven't been including them in the overall cost. I'm sorry, I know that's a convoluted way. I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but.
Well,
At least helps in terms of knowing what was previously available in terms of understanding the cost estimates and what wasn't. I do see that the project management appears to have almost tripled from 117,000 to 367,000, but I'm not seeing any breakdown of that cost. I understand that from the presentation, there's the sustainability planning. Is there any way to have more information about the source of those project increases?
Absolutely can break that down for you. Absolutely. I also it's probably also important to note that phase 1 East did have a number back in the master plan. So yes, to answer your question specifically on the project management, we can give you that breakdown. And then for phase 1 East, there was also a master planning estimate, and the high end of that was a little over 17 million. So this phase 1 East estimate right now is definitely on the higher end of what the master plan even contemplated at that point, but still definitely in the range of where the master plan had identified it, if that helps. So we can provide that as well separately.
I would also just point out for the project management, one of the things we're doing here also, Deborah, is that we're combining some of the previous project review forms. So some of these were scattered actually in separate project review forms, and we brought them under this kind of all-inclusive project review form here. So some of those project management costs you would have seen scattered throughout the contracts, actually with JS Health, for instance, with SB Friedman. And so we did try to add all those costs here. So the specific breakdowns will be available in those particular contracts. And that's kind of how we wanted this to be the grand overview, and any kind of specific breakdowns in terms of what services are being provided, specifically in like what the hourly rates are, for instance, and the time that's extended. Those will come through as we get more of those contract addendums, or if things get extended and things like that. Of course, we're happy to provide those for you as well, but just to give you a flush out of like, without making this a 10-page document or spreadsheet, we want this to be the quick snapshot and then add in the details with each of those contracts that you all approve in accordance with this.
Thank you. So I appreciate having the broad overview, because certainly that makes things easier to look at. I'm just trying to clarify, in looking at the broad overview, how can it be presented to know which items were previously approved, even if they were indicated in other project areas, but now they've been reconsolidated into this overview? That's fine. But I'm trying to understand how to distinguish between the consolidation and new costs that are being added. Just, can you help walk me through how to understand, how to find those differences, consolidation versus new costs?
I believe so. So anything you see in red in the project review form are typically costs that are being added to this for the first time. Now, not all of those are new costs. Where there's a specific contractor listed in particular, those are costs typically that you've already obligated either through a contract addendum or through a contract approval. So even though it's red, I'm just indicating like we move this over to this project review form for some of those, like for the consulting agreements. As you'll see, ULI agreement was in here already, 135,000, that didn't change. The appraisals haven't changed. Project agreement with IU Health hasn't changed. Due diligence, First Street estimates haven't changed. There was one addendum to the VS Engineering, again, a specific contractor, so that was in there already. The Phase 1 East and the the TBD cord, those things in red there are largely the new costs. I think the only thing that we had in Phase 1 East from the prior version of this that you all saw was the approval of the Shrewsbury and Associates design contract. We didn't have, and you also saw the property acquisition, but you kind of saw those more piecemeal. So property acquisition was brought into this. Shrewsbury was there in terms of that was something that you all had approved, but everything else, these estimates for demolition, construction engineering, construction and utility costs, those are new costs that we brought in, because those are the things that have since clarified as we work through this and work closer with Shrewsbury as they've gotten toward finalizing their plans for demolition and construction. We have more clarity on what we expect those costs to be as we go out to bid, but not perfect clarity, but we hope a little more.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? All right, not hearing any questions from the public or comments? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion for resolution 22-10.
This is David Walter. I make a motion to accept resolution 2210.
This is Deb Hutton. I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Could we vote via roll call, please?
Deb Hutton, yes.
Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Question, do we have to put the word amended in there, or just as the resolution is fine and the thing that Larry Allen sent us late this afternoon with the amended approval form, that's just an exhibit and it's all part of the same original resolution.
It should be counted as the same original resolution because it was submitted before the meeting started tonight. It's called the amended project review form because we're amending the original one, but there's no need for an amended motion or a motion as amended because the resolution is still correct.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving on, resolution 22-11, approval of construction inspection and tree removal agreement funding for improvements along 17th Street. Who's here to speak to this, please?
Good evening. My name is Neil Copper. I'm with the engineering department. So this is for the project on 17th Street between Monroe and Grant. Just high level, the main parts of the project include multi-use path along the north side of the street, installing accessible sidewalk curb ramps for the existing sidewalk on the south side of the street, repaving the street and replacing the traffic signal at the Madison and Kinzer intersection. The two items for this project are first, a tree clearing contract. So this is separate from the overall construction contract, basically because it needs to happen first in order to comply with bat habitat environmental restrictions. It dictates when the trees need to come down. And then the second piece is construction inspection. So we do inspection on all of our construction projects. Sometimes it's in-house inspection and sometimes it is hiring a consultant. Whenever there are federal funds involved, we're actually required to hire a consultant that is approved by NDOT. So we went through an RFP process to get our construction inspection consultant. Those are the two pieces that are here in this item tonight. Staff has reviewed and supports them, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Not hearing any. Any questions or comments from the public? I don't see any. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for resolution 22-11.
This is Deb Hutton. I move that we approve resolution 22-11.
This is Deborah Meyerson. I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Could I have a vote via roll call, please?
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
Walter, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes. Resolution 22-11 passes unanimously. Next item of business is just business and general discussion. Are there any topics that we need to cover tonight? All right, not hearing any. John, anybody, anything else we need to talk about? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
This is David Walter. I make motion, we adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Deb Hutton, yes.
Aye.
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 All right, good night, everyone. Have a great night.